I stopped my car on a rainy Tuesday evening because I saw a woman standing helpless beside her vehicle, hazard lights blinking weakly in the storm. I had no idea that single decision, made in less than 10 seconds, was about to change the course of my entire life. What happened next still gives me chills every time I think about it. Before we dive into this story, if you believe in the power of small acts of kindness, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and drop a comment telling us about a time someone helped you when you least expected it. This channel, Kindness Waves, is all about real stories that remind us how much good still exists in the world. Now, let's get into today's story. It was late October, and the sky over the small town of Millbrook had turned a deep, bruised gray. Rain hammered down in sheets, the kind that makes visibility drop to almost nothing. I was driving home from a long shift at the hardware store where I worked, tired, hungry, and honestly just wanted to get into dry clothes and collapse on my couch. That's when I saw her. A woman, maybe in her early 60s, stood beside a small sedan pulled halfway onto the shoulder of the road. Her hazard lights blinked through the downpour, and she was drenched, waving her hands weakly at passing cars, most of which sped right past her without slowing down. I almost did the same. I was exhausted. I told myself someone else would stop, but something in my chest tightened, and before I could talk myself out of it, I pulled over. I stepped out into the rain and jogged toward her car. "Are you okay?" I shouted over the storm. She looked at me with wide, grateful eyes, her hands trembling from the cold. "My car just died," she said. "I don't know what's wrong with it. I've been standing here for almost 20 minutes. Her voice cracked, not just from the cold, but from the exhaustion of being ignored by dozens of cars that had already passed her by. I popped the hood, even though I wasn't much of a mechanic, and tried to figure out what was going on. It turned out to be something simple, a loose battery cable that had come undone from all the jostling on the rough road. I reconnected it, and the engine sputtered back to life. She let out a relieved laugh, half tears and half joy, and thanked me over and over again. We stood there for a moment in the rain, both soaked, both smiling like two people who had just shared something bigger than a roadside repair. Her name was Carol. She told me she was driving home from visiting her daughter in the hospital, and that her daughter had just given birth to her first grandchild. She had been so overwhelmed with joy and worry that she hadn't even noticed her car struggling until it stopped completely. Before I left, she asked for my name and insisted on getting my number so she could thank me properly once she dried off. I brushed it off, telling her it was nothing, that anyone would have done the same. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. Not many people would have stopped that night. A few days later, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Carol. She told me her husband, Richard, owned a small but growing construction company in the next town over, and that he was looking for someone reliable, someone with a good heart, to help manage a new project they were struggling to staff. She had told him the story of the stranger who stopped in the rain to help her, and he wanted to meet me. I almost didn't go. I remember thinking, this seems too good to be true. Why would a simple act of kindness lead to something like a job opportunity? But I decided to trust the moment, the same way I had trusted my instinct to pull over that rainy night. I met with Richard, and within a week, I had a new job, one that paid nearly double what I was making at the hardware store, with better hours and people who genuinely cared about their employees. That job changed everything for me. It allowed me to pay off debts I had been struggling with for years. It gave me the stability to finally save for a home. But more than the financial change, it gave me something deeper, a reminder that kindness has ripples we cannot always see in the moment. Carol and I stayed close after that. She became like a second mother to me, checking in regularly, inviting me to family dinners, celebrating milestones together. What started as a 10-second decision to pull over on a rainy road turned into a relationship, a career, and a completely different path for my life. Looking back, I think about how easy it would have been to keep driving that night. I was tired. I had every excuse in the world to look away. But something inside me chose to stop, to care, to show up for a stranger who needed help. And in doing so, I received far more than I ever gave. This story reminds us that kindness is never wasted, even when we don't expect anything in return. You never know whose life you might touch, or how your smallest act of compassion could ripple outward in ways you could never predict. So the next time you see someone who needs help, whether it's a stranger stuck on the side of the road or a coworker having a hard day, take that chance. Stop. Reach out. You might just be the answer to someone's prayer, and in return, life might surprise you in the most beautiful way. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a little reminder that kindness always finds its way back. Until next time, keep spreading kindness, one small act at a time.